In this video, we're going to modify an image using the GIMP software. It does pretty much everything Photoshop does. It's not quite as easy to use, but it's free, so that makes it my favorite. Once you are in GIMP, open the image you want to modify from the File menu. Since we plan to use this image in both Canvas and Google Classroom, we're going to have to consider the image size. Canvas makes it very simple to resize an image you've placed in any kind of page. Just drag a corner out until the image is the size you want. In Google Classroom, the theme image must fit the page before uploading. So we're going to resize this to 800 by 225 pixels, which is close enough. At this resolution, it's easier to get a good result if we zoom in until we can see individual pixels. 400% is really still too small. Let's zoom in to 800%. Yes, that's better. You see how it is easier now to make small changes? Later, when we view the image at its normal size, it will look much sharper and cleaner. Okay, this is a picture of some guy shining a flashlight on a monument or something. Boring. We want a lightsaber duel, so we need to copy the figure. One thing that makes this picture somewhat difficult to modify is the way the sky is a whole gradient of color from light pink all the way to midnight blue. We could just draw a big box around this guy and copy him and paste him in somewhere else, but the sky behind him wouldn't match, and it would be a lot of work to fix it. So we're going to draw a selection very tight around the figure. Once we're done, the selection will pop out. Now we still want the original figure to stay where it is, so let's make a copy and then change the copy. When I paste the copy into the image, it looks like nothing happens. But there are really two figures now, one exactly on top of the other. So we can move the top one over like this, and then flip it horizontally and place it so that the two figures seem like they're fighting with their light beams. When the position looks good, we'll select Anchor Layer from the Layer menu. Okay, the hard part is done. We can do the rest with the airbrush, bucket, and pencil. First, let's turn the original flashlight beam into a shorter light beam that looks like a sword. Use the color picker to select the color of the sky at the top of the image, then use the airbrush to paint over the light beam. I like the airbrush for this job more than the pencil because the pencil makes a very opaque, clean line, and I want to blend and fade to match the sky as closely as possible. Just keep going over it until it looks good. This is why we like the airbrush. I'm going to fast forward now so you don't have to sit and watch me airbrush the whole thing. After fixing the sky, the beam looks chopped off. So let's get the color of the halo around the beam and round it off at the end. That looks good. Now we want the figure on the left to have a red lightsaber. So we're going to use the bucket fill tool to fill in the color. Because the light beams are blended and hazy, they won't fill cleanly, but it's going to be okay. We'll take the brush size down to 4 so that we can work in a smaller area. Then we'll use the paintbrush to extend the red filled area up to the end of the lightsaber. Touch it up a bit. Now let's use the airbrush, back up to 20 pixels wide, to add a hazy layer around the light beam. Finally, it's time to make the figures look like they're different people instead of one guy fighting his own reflection. Use the color picker to get the exact shade from the silhouette. Then select the pencil. It'll give us a dark, opaque, clean line. 20 pixels is way too big for details, so set the pencil size down at 2 or 3 pixels. 3 should be fine. We'll give this guy a classic look, helmet and cape, and fill it in. Let's give him another leg and have him stepping forward. Now the first guy still looks like he's just calmly standing there, so let's give him another leg too to make him look more dynamic. There. Now let's see how this is going to look at the original size. I like it. Let's save this with a descriptive name, not a flashlight anymore, let's call it Space Duel. Much better. GIMP saves images in its own format, .xcf. This does not work in most other programs, so we'll need to export it as a standard file type like JPG or PNG. Okay, there it is. We now have a sci-fi banner image we can use to add some drama to our gamified classroom.